I love how fired up he was getting
I
about
know, I know, I know.
about
Just being
cross-checking
dogs.
people.
Oh,
Yeah.
exactly. I'm just gonna cross check it. Yeah, as the interview goes on, we start to get to the core a little more. It's like I'm just gonna cross check you in the back of the head. Never mind all this honor and
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's so funny.
All right, here we go. Fight stories. John Moses, Tyler Morrison.
What's up? What's up? We got another banger episode coming your
Buddy.
way.
Yeah.
This is what it's all about. We love doing these episodes where we can talk to old school dudes who came up in a little bit of a different era than us, where it was a little bit more fast and loose.
First of all, we're talking to another NHL enforcer, top 3 all time, right? By your
Oh yeah, he'd be in my top 2.
Really?
Him and Probert are like 1A, 1B. Dave Brown's in the mix. Like those guys are unbelievable. They were so good.
Right. So we're talking with Behn Wilson,
Behn
former
Wilson.
Philadelphia Flyers, Chicago Blackhawks. Let's wrap the 601 games in the NHL. That's a lot of time.
And he was an all-star defenseman. We're
Yeah.
talking NHL All Star plus he was a first-round draft pick. He was drafted 6 overall.
Yep.
So I mean,
98 goals, 261 assists, 1,480 PIMers.
it's pretty unreal. And then his playoff
Yeah.
stats are really good.
Yeah. He set I think he set a rookie record for points from a defenseman,
That's awesome.
which is nuts. Because you know what's so crazy? It's because I don't even think I've heard his name so much, but I was always associated with fights. It's never as a skill guy.
Yeah, and I find it interesting because this is a guy who had a pretty good NHL career, man, and definitely good at All Star. And you don't hear about him too much on Hockey Night in Canada. Like the only time you really ever hear his name come up is when they're talking about Wendel Clark. They show that fight with Wendel Clark, and that's also because we're living in Toronto.
Right.
Canada's
fandom.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Canada's pumping the Leafs hard. They don't, but maybe in Chicago stuff they bring him up more or whatever, or Philly.
Right.
But this is a guy who other players feared. He looked like the Undertaker out there sometimes, and I think on the episode we talk a little bit about getting into those long fights, the drawn out fights. Yeah. But if you watch him, I didn't say it on the interview, but he got stronger as the fight went on too. Even though he,
well, that's because he was tying him up, and guys are probably gassing out.
Yeah, exactly. And if you watch fights where guys like Bob McGill, who we just had on, awesome, and Wendel Clark, they sort of cemented their reputations by having good fights with Behn Wilson. Neither of those guys cleaned up Wilson. They just had really competitive fight.
Right.
Even when you watch those fights, it still looks like they're fighting from a deficit. It looks like a dream fight where you're punching as hard as you can and it's not doing anything to the guy. That's what it was like fighting this dude. And it was really cool to.
I was watching some of the old fights, like from the 70s. It's so fun watching that. Like, first of all, there would be a fight and it would look like a riot
every time,
dude. Just gloves and helmets and sticks, barely helmets, but sticks everywhere. Guys would be on the ice. Refs would just be, and then you would have guys going for 5 minutes because there's 3 refs or 2 refs on the ice at that time. And it's and everybody's tied up and guys are just going. It was it was pandemonium all the time.
Dude.
But I love the big heads of hair, and you'd see guys landing and you just see the whole head just go.
The afro popping.
Dude, it looked like a palm tree in the wind, just swaying.
100%, man. Yeah, all those those 70s afros, they're always rocking those. Like John Wensink had a nice one.
Wensink. It was that fight with him and Wensink where it was just he's getting bopped and you just see the
that was a good one.
Movement.
Oh man. it did look like a riot back then. I remember there was a brawl with Dave the Hammer Schultz when he was with Philly, and there's a scene where he's got the guy on the glass, and he's shaking the glass with his hands and body slamming him into it, and then he flips off the cop's hat in the crowd, like he's just being like with his hands. just pandemonium all the time.
Oh, dude, so great. Speaking of which, they just wrapped, Four Nations face off, Canada versus USA.
Yeah, that was a nice throwback.
Buddy, come on, man. Dude, first of all, and I mentioned this briefly in the pod too. I hate to say it, but you got to give Trump credit.
Yeah. He knows how to sell a fight.
Oh my God, dude! Has there ever been two nations more invested in a hockey game? Not in my lifetime, dude. I've never remembered like people being so pumped about a hockey game.
Oh yeah,
and then for it to open up like that, 3 fights in 9 seconds. Everybody who bitches and pisses and moans, obviously they don't watch this podcast, but everybody that bitches and moans about fighting in the NHL can right off, dude, because this is what separates this game from every other sport, is fighting's a part of it. Look how pumped they are. Those clips, I saw those clips, they were everywhere. Nobody cared about Connor McDavid's goal, which was fine. We cared. No, we cared. But I mean, like,
but the fights.
Right, but like, it wasn't even like, those fights were the highlights of the game. The contact in that game was like, oh my God, it feels like I'm watching hockey from the 90s. Nobody hits anymore. And I get it, there's like concussions and all that stuff, but this was just like a throwback. It's the way the game is meant to be played, and you could feel the intensity, and people reacted to it, and they love it.
Absolutely. It brought passion back to hockey. And that's something that you see has been sort of phased out with the, it's long seasons. It's definitely a more finesse-oriented game, and it's a bigger money game. It's a lot about prolonging your career in the years you can make money as a pro. People are very conscious of that right now. It's a business more than it used to be, and so you lose a little bit of that tension. And these guys, I give all these guys the full credit in the world for.
Listen,
they put it on the line for their country, man. That's what it's all about. They cared, and they brought passion to it.
I hated the Tkachuks during the week of I hated them, but
I love
you gotta love them. But you gotta love them, dude. If they were,
I wish that they were Canadian. I wish they were
Canadian, dude. Come on,
yeah.
Those guys we had you look down the rosters, and on paper, we got the better skill team. But, it was you play 10 more games, they'd probably split them 5-5 because America had more heart and grit, and that might be, it might be just by way of who was available. Like you just had some, not everybody was a top tier first liner or whatever.
Yeah.
But they, and that heart and that grit, that stuff, that's playoff hockey. That's the stuff that wins games. That's the stuff that wins championships,
Yeah, that Brady Tkachuk too, man. Like, he really was a handful. I think Matthew was injured in the finals, but Brady was he was out there creating problems, and
Matthew Tkachuk menaced the Leafs last year in the playoffs.
Oh yeah.
He was a menace.
It's nice to see. I haven't gotten excited about hockey like that in so many years.
Me neither.
So hats off to everyone.
Listen, it was awesome. JJ Watt tweeted I got people who've never even watched the game before being like, hey, where are you watching the game tonight? Let's order some food.
That's wicked.
Awesome for the game down here. Awesome.
And storybook ending for Canada with all the adversity. Our country's down bad right now, and we needed this. This is like Canada needed this because America, after that first game where we lost, they were talking so much shit.
Dude.
It was embarrassing. I wasn't embarrassed of the team, but it was just tough being Canadian. Like we're taking this abuse with you guys,
Oh God, yeah,
like
dude.
The amount of shit talk online.
Oh, buddy, me being down here, I got my back up.
Yeah, exactly. But
I was skating. I took my kids skating, yesterday or over the weekend. And I was at the rink, and
it's the only place you feel safe,
buddy. I'm a lifelong house leaguer, and I'm still better than everybody at the rink. I'm like, this is our goddamn game.
Yeah, you
So
can't.
yeah, so it was cool. Obviously, I'm glad they won. We were hooting and hollering, at my chick's place. So so it was awesome. But I hope obviously they keep it up. I just wish some of that play would bleed a little more into the regular season, and because it was playoff hockey. But hopefully that starts to, man. Hopefully they're like, oh, you know what, fighting sells. That's all they care about. What sells?
Yeah. Yeah, and fighting always sold, and they just wanted to ignore that. Because they wanted to make it like a family game, but families love fights, dude. Was it Don Cherry always said, when there's a fight, not one person gets up to go to the concession stand.
Yeah.
No one's out getting a hot dog when a fist fight's on. So
that's right.
That's what this is all about. Oh, buddy. Love Donald. Donald S. Cherry?
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
So, right now, you know what? F it.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to Fight Stories. I'm Tyler Morrison. I'm here with John Moses, and today we have a very special guest with us. This guy, I mean, if you're a hockey fan, you know him. All-Star defenseman, former Philadelphia Flyer, Chicago Blackhawk, and one of the most dangerous pugilists to ever patrol the ice. We got Mr. Behn Wilson with us. Ben, thanks for joining us.
No, I'm glad to be here. This is awesome.
Right
also,
on.
we should say, of all the hockey fighters that we've ever interviewed, you've scored the most goals. In fact, you might have more goals than all of the guys we've interviewed combined, and that's as a defenseman.
That's really the best stat.
Never thought about that. That's funny.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, Ben, thanks for coming on the podcast. Thanks for agreeing to do it. We appreciate it.
Yeah. I got to tell you a short intro story. I haven't done interviews or showed up anywhere for 30 years. And, I had my own life doing my own thing. And this all started when my middle daughter, Christy, she said, this guy's reaching out, wants to talk to you, wants to do an interview. And she, yeah, and never did it. And after asked me every couple months, after a year, she says, Dad, the guy's got 5 questions, 5, and it'll be done in 5 minutes, maybe 10. Go do it. And so the guy's name was Scoop Malinowski, and so I did it, and it was 5 to 10 minutes, and I acted like a big boy, could answer the questions. And the next thing, Scoop, a few months later, he sent me a text. I said, "This is released today," and he wrote a book, facing Behn Wilson. And I said, my first thought is, holy shit, what did I do?
Yeah, what did you agree to with those 5 questions?
Yeah, what's your favorite color? And the next thing, there's a book. So I wasn't sure. So I read the book, and Scoop's got a unique take on it, and that is he interviews peers and guys that I played with, and just what are your thoughts? And what was clever, and it caught me in a way I didn't recognize, is that it brought me back to the players, my contemporaries, and what they remember. And some of it brings back old memories, and but what he did, he memorialized things that are just progressively being lost to time. So it was a meaningful book to me, and it changed. And then I said, shit, you know what? If you've got a few interviews you want me to do, Scoop, I'm glad to do them. I like the idea of memorializing it. And as he said, they're the golden years of hockey. And not that I'm the judge of that, but it was very exciting, very crazy. And let's memorialize this stuff, just like you guys are doing, before it's all lost to time.
Well,
Absolutely.
yeah, that jogs a couple of questions. Just that, first of all, you said it was the golden age of hockey, and there has been, we know the game's changed over the last, I don't know, 15 years, where there's a lot less contact. They're certainly going away from fighting, but we just had Canada USA. And the opening of that first game has brought more attention to the game than anything I've seen. Living in I live in New Jersey, and I grew up, also in Canada. And the Leafs in Canada is like the Yankees in New York. Like, it doesn't matter what the Jays are doing in the summer. If the Leafs get a new head coach, it doesn't, that 10-game winning streak is put on the back page of the sports. And it's the same
Yeah.
thing. Hockey is buried down here. Like, ESPN won't show hockey highlights. They'll show an NCAA women's final before they show any hockey highlights. But all of a sudden, everybody's talking about hockey. Great start to the game. You had the 3 fights. The fights themselves weren't that great, but great start to the game. There was some contact there. What was your opinion of Canada versus USA, and just like that whole format that the NHL has brought in?
Well, I thought it was absolutely tremendous. I think
Right.
that when you look at the other sports playing all-star games, and football is just too violent. You can't play an all-star game. No one wants to ruin their
Right.
career.
Yeah.
Basketball, it turns, there's no defense, and guys are just throwing bombs and highlight reels, and then they turn this
Yeah.
into incredibly intense games, enough that they start off with fighting. And this is the guys, they could be having their a week off and resting and whatever. And the disparity, especially between Team USA and Team USA, there's no disparity, right? And they played twice. One team won, one team won the other.
Yeah.
And I bet if they play 100 more times, there's going to be a winner. It's probably going to be 51 games to 49. And
Right.
and I think it was tremendous for hockey. Watching it, the games were intense. They were hard. No one was
I know.
giving an inch. It was tremendous.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely had playoff intensity, and I think obviously they're going to come back with it. The only note you would love to have seen Russia field a team, somehow. You know what I mean? Especially the season that Ovi's having, and and the great chase that's happening right now.
Yeah,
But
was great.
but I mean, like 10 million people were watching the game. You got people who, casuals at best, like talking about hockey down here. It was great. And this whole bit, and why? Because listen, you got to give, politics aside, like, Trump doesn't make those comments, or like, you don't have that sort of geopolitical tension. Maybe that doesn't, that definitely added to it. But, you take the fights out of those first 9 seconds of the game, nobody's talking about it. I mean, that was on everybody's, TVs, computer screens, telephones. It's what makes hockey unique versus any other sport. And I hope that this opens up some conversation to sort of welcome it back in the fold.
Yeah, I think that the game, everything evolves, and um, just before I broke in the league, the Broadstreet Bullies came out and they beat up and pushed around every team. And, that doesn't mean they didn't have great players, and Bernie Perron and Bobby Clark and Billy Barber. And that changed the game for a while. And then they started changing the rules and the penalties, and the game changes again. I've always thought that people carry a stick, and the stick can be a weapon. And when I've been in a league, and I think when I was like 15 or something, and they took out fighting, and then everyone was great. A lot of stick work, because guys know they could get you with a stick, and you can't do anything about it. And I always felt that if you want to eliminate 90% of the asshole stuff, let the guys fight. Because if guys are convinced you can't fight, or they can almost fight and the refs will get in and protect them, there's no end to the stuff. And all they have to say, you guys want to pull this shit, go fight. And you're going to find out where the rubber meets the road. A lot of guys aren't going to do it. And at the same time, There's an intimidation factor and it's tough. And I think it's great for games. But, one of the things that happened even during my career, there was a big disparity between the size of the defensemen and the forwards. And the speed of the forwards and the defensemen were slower, but they were stronger. There were tougher guys. There were guys that, and over time, and I watch the games now, uh, the skating is pretty much um, forwards and defensemen. They're still faster guys, but there's nobody slow out there anymore. There's nobody
Yeah, yeah.
that's that's just strong that can't skate. And but back then there was a huge disparity, and you get mismatches, and the end-to-end rush. Um, really can't happen now. And it's interesting. My very first exhibition game, I got the puck behind our goal line. I did an end-to-end rush and deked the goaltender and scored. And by the end of my career, I played with my defense partner in Chicago, Keith Brown, and you can't get around the guy. Number one, he's as fast as any forward, probably faster. He's a hell of a lot stronger, and he's in incredible shape. How do you go around him? You can't muscle on him. You can't skate him. So as the game gets better and everyone's the same, it's just the mismatches, and it's happened in basketball now too. Used to have the big, strong, tough centers, and now the centers hang out and shoot 3-pointers. And I'm not saying the game's not better. That's not me to say it's better or worse or whatever. It's just different.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so when you're playing junior hockey, that's when the Broadstreet Bullies sort of arise, right? Like that's when Schultz and them
Oh man, my dad
are
loves some Bobby Clark. He was a Leaf fan, but boy, did he love some Bobby Clark. I,
How do you
I heard a
not?
lot of Bobby Clark in my household.
Do you find that the ultra violent tactics that are sort of being, I mean, yielding results in the NHL at that time, does that start trickling down into junior? Does junior start getting
Mm.
more violent because of what, is happening in the NHL at the time?
Yeah, I think there's a trickle down with everything. When it
Hmm.
used to be the defense, defend and dump the puck up the wing, and then Bobby Orr came in the league, and all of a sudden you've got defensemen carrying the puck. And then growing up, everyone was the next Bobby Orr, and everyone wanted to do that and whatever. And then with the toughness and the way the rules were called. There were good or bad. There were some great players that couldn't take the beating and didn't really have a career, didn't make the NHL. And there were some tough guys, not necessarily very good players, but they had a career. And then in the middle of my career, they changed the rules, and all of a sudden it got reversed. Some of these really tough guys, their careers were over because they didn't have the speed and the skills. And guys that couldn't play in the league, players not necessarily the same guys because you lose your opportunity, but all of a sudden guys that couldn't take the beating, they can start to play because they don't take a beating every game, and they were great players.
Yeah, and then so in junior hockey though, you're seeing this happen, and had you been in fights before hockey, like outside of hockey? Had you had scrapes, like I don't know, street fights or whatever? Like,
Um, when
how do you
I
become
was
good at this?
well, I was. Uh, Always, whatever reason, I thought I would, older kids are picking on all my friends. I always jumped in to defend them. And, when you're, in third to sixth grade and you jump and defend them, then you get beat up yourself. But so I always did that, a lot of that. And then um, in minor hockey, when I was like 14 and 15, there was no fighting. So I was never any fights in hockey. And then you get drafted and you're going to go to play junior. And
Mhm.
I'm 16, and some of the guys are, the better players are 19 and 20, and they're shaving and they're mature and they're great players. And you
Yeah,
want,
yeah, yeah.
and
Their balls and their voice have dropped.
oh, and then you say, guess what? I want to get on this team, and I'll do anything. So I think my first year, uh, junior, 3 weeks of training camp, If there were 50 fights in training camp, I was in 45 of them. And I never fought before.
Wow.
And
Wow.
actually, you say, how do you learn? Which is a great story. That I remember the first fight I get in, and it looks like there was a million fists. Some of them were his, and some of them were mine. I didn't know. And you swing, and you're doing all this stuff or whatever. It's just a crazy. And you get to the penalty box, and you slowly put your hands on your face to see if you're all cut up. You got so much adrenaline going. I don't know what happened. And I spent the entire time in the penalty box trying to figure out um, if I won or lost the fight. I had no idea. And and the more you fight, then it starts to slow down, and you start getting there's you move to there's only 500,000 fists out there, and finally there's only like 50 fists, and you can actually tell some of them are yours and some of them are his, and and then um, uh, when I got in a fight with this guy. I think his name was Trevor Johansson for Toronto, and he grabbed my arm and my elbow just on the inside, and had a straight arm, and I was winning the fight, except my punches aren't landing because he's got my elbow, and the ones that landed weren't very hard, and uh, and I found that colossally frustrating. And like
Yeah.
anything else, he said he did that to me. As much as that pissed me off, I said, you know what? I'm going to do that to everybody else. And that was sort of like, the final piece of my fighting. My balance on my skates was always good. I wasn't falling down. Um, and the number of fists going on as you get better and more experience, that's slowing down, and I got a grip. So I never fought anyone until I had a grip. And if I can go on about this, and you don't win fights and last in hockey, winning a fight 100 punches to 99. You don't win and last in hockey landing 100 punches and getting hit 20 times. You just can't take those punches and keep going. Um, and my idea of fighting was zero. I get hit 0 times, and then everything else is a bonus. So um, if I once I don't fight until I get the grip on the elbow, and so that's the very tenuous time. And once I have a grip on the elbow, he can swing as much as he wants. He's not hitting me, and if he hits me, he's got 5-10% power. It looks good, but it doesn't hurt. And so then it's just a question of I'm on offense, and can I break his grip? Can I get him to do something? Does he lose a little balance or whatever? But that's how I learned to fight. And I see guys today, and I think there's less fighting. And I don't think um, just grabbing someone around the neck, they can hit you. And all these fighters can hit hard enough to hurt. And I really think they have to get the elbow. And that was me. I didn't fight at the beginning of a fight until I got the grip. Sometimes you're fortunate enough to get the grip right away. And sometimes you got to protect your head a little bit until you get the grip. And sometimes, when there's pushing and shoving, you grab someone before a fight breaks out. And right away, I grab the elbow on the inside. And once I have that, then it doesn't, they'll hit me 0 times, and it's just a question of how many times I can hit them. So that's what I did. The way to become a good fighter is start off not being a very good player. Good players don't have to fight. They put the puck in the net. They do great things, and they're on the team. And the lousy players or the poorer players do anything they can do, extra hits, play tough, intimidate to try to make the team. And the last thing about that is that so there were good guys in juniors, really good players, and they get to pro, and as the game's bigger, faster, stronger, better, they're not so good, and now they're trying to do the value add by being tough. And I just say to anyone, the pro is a bad time to learn how to fight. This is,
Yeah.
it's
Deep
one.
waters.
Yeah, and I saw some guys get hit really badly, and they're trying their best, and but I don't know how you come back from those hits. It's just a bad place, but they're doing whatever they could do. It's just the guys, the fighters were too good, and probably another thing, whether it's is that I could probably tell in a fight in the first 3 seconds. Even if I didn't know the guy, I could tell how good a fighter he was. And it's you just you just can't start and do it and think you're good.
Hmm.
You could tell right away.
So you
Um,
mentioned getting the grip and how important that is, and you see it when you watch your fights. You're predominantly a right-handed fighter. Is that because the grip was so important, like on the get that guy's right hand? But what happens when you run into lefties? Did you find that frustrating that because you have to switch up your style a bit, or are you just trying to impose your style on him?
You just asked the most horrible question of all fighting for me in the universe. Um, um, I had my and I do believe unquestionably in grabbing the right elbow so he can't hit me with the right and me swing with my right is the best technique. You run into a lefty, yeah, that plan doesn't work very well. And I didn't, so I hated fighting lefties because it was a fair fight. I couldn't stop him from hitting me, and he couldn't stop him hitting you. And if you ever watch the videos, I fought with Terry O'Reilly.
mhm.
Um, it was wild and crazy, and he's tough as shit, and he's a great fighter. And all of a sudden, I'm in what I call a fair fight, which I didn't have any intention of ever being in a fair fight. I wanted that grip. I want to make sure the guy couldn't hit me, and it might look like they're hitting me, but it doesn't hurt or whatever. But the lefties, it was. It was tough. I'll tell you a funny story about that is um, um, I played with Tim Kerr in Philadelphia and also in junior. And Tim Kerr is huge. He's 6'3", 230 pounds, um, muscles, ripples. He's just big, huge, strong, and a lefty. And his very first year for the Flyers, I think it was my third or fourth year. I don't know what I was doing, what I was thinking, because, well, the answer is I didn't know what I was doing and I wasn't thinking. And I got on him in Montreal and saying, a guy at the time, Baker, I don't know his first name, but I said, Baker's pushing you around. It looks embarrassing. Now, that wasn't happening, but it just sounded like a good thing to say to piss him off. And the next shift, Tim, what's the matter? Is he too strong for you? He's embarrassing you. And I kept it up and kept it up. And I don't know how many fights Timmy Kerr got in, but finally exploded. He got in a fight with Baker, and he's a lefty. He's powerful, and he just pounded Baker, and it was awful. So Baker probably didn't really appreciate my funny comments after the game. I said, Tim, I told Timmy, I kind of made that shit up, but I think it worked out great. And so I was talking with Timmy. It's just a few months ago, and I honestly believe this that if there's one guy and he's a non-fighter. If there's one guy in the league that would scare the shit out of me to fight, it'd me fighting Tim Kerr because he's absolutely powerful. And there's a few other guys that are maybe around that strength, but the lefty combination, that would be a terrible, terrible. And he just laughs. He just laughs because imagine a guy could be, and I do believe it. And that'd be a terrifying thing for me. And yeah, lefties, Never asked that question again to me. I hated it, and thank God that most guys are righties, and oh, the other thing I hated was you play a whole game and the end of the shift, and then someone comes out fresh as a daisy to jump you from behind to fight you. I wasn't a fan of that. You're tired, they're fresh as a daisy, jump you from behind. Not a big
Well, you're
fan.
playing the whole game. They're only playing 3 shifts. Right.
Yeah. And
Was there
sometimes
anyone
it's the
that
first shift.
was there anyone that did that to you that you remember, like memorable, that kind of, their opponent that, it pissed you off?
Well, my first fight in the NHL, there's pushing and shoving. It was in Toronto, and I was holding on to Tiger Williams. The next thing is he sucker punched me, so I wasn't a fan of that. Kenny Linsman was causing some shit in Philadelphia against Pittsburgh, and I was looking at Kenny because I thought everything he did was hysterical because he just pissed people off and you couldn't stop him. And he's on my team. He's on my team, so I thought it was great. And Paul Baxter sucker punched me. Next thing I knew, I was on the ground, and wasn't a fan of that. And then another one was, and they started doing this that all of a sudden they'd call up, and the way I describe it, call up a guy from the minors. Now, in the minors, he's played 3 years, has 10 million penalty minutes, 1 assist, and he gets he gets called up, and somehow he's starting the game, and they go right after me. And if you win that fight, they call someone else up. And if you win that, they call someone else. That got tiring, but the a funny one, now it is, but we're playing Washington, Philadelphia. I think it's in Philadelphia. Anyway, they bring up Archie Henderson from the minors. Archie was, I give him credit, he not a great player, but he lived by being tough, and he kept
He's
it
a
up.
big guy.
Big guy, 6'5", and he started the game against me. The puck's on our end, it's going down to their end, and all of a sudden, boom, I'm on the ground. He must have two-handed me over the head, and I'm on the ground.
Oh.
And the good news, it was in the first 15 seconds of the game. So I wasn't tired, or I wasn't tired when he was fresh. The bad news is I never really appreciate getting whacked over the top of my head with a stick as hard as they can, and that brought out a lot of rage, and so I don't know how he kept standing. I thought I was hitting him hard. I had my grip. It's going. He's getting and he should have been on the ground, and I don't know what was going wrong because I had a lot of rage. I thought I was doing great, and then
You're ringing the bell.
Oh, I thought so. And then after the fight, he said to me, "Good fight." And now, if you know Archie, that's what he did. He told everyone, but I didn't know that. So there it was. He's whacked me over the head. I thought I hit him hard enough to put him down, and next thing he says, "Good fight." I said, "Whoa, what the hell is going on?" So later on in the game, and this is how nutty the game was, but how violent it was, and how violent I was, and he's on right wing and he's ahead, and they're going to pass him the puck up, breaking up the boards. And I know it's coming. And I said, well, this is great. I'm going to go cross check him in the head. And, maybe I'll hit him before the puck. He gets the puck, maybe after, but he ain't getting up from this one. I'm pissed because he hit me and two-handed me in the head. And, I'm going to get some penalty minutes, might get suspended, but again, I don't like getting hit in the head. Write that down. Ben doesn't like getting in the head with a stick from behind. I go to cross check.
That might be the title of the episode. Ben doesn't like getting hit in the
head. Yeah. We don't know why. Ben never explained it, but he doesn't like getting two-handed over his head. But I go to cross check him in the head, and I catch his shoulder. I didn't hurt him at all. Next thing, I'm in another fight with him, but I'm still equally as pissed off. I have the rage. And again, I thought I had a good fight, and I don't know how he's still standing. And I met him years ago. And then at the end of the fight, you hear, good fight. Again, it pissed me off, right? So, this is the first 5 minutes of the game. I've already have 2 fights. I'm wiped out. It's just bad. So later on, I saw him. He says, "Yeah." He says, "I think I was out cold standing on that fight." Couldn't you have gone down? Because you almost got cross-checked in the face because I was so pissed off. If you went down, it might not have happened. So, getting back to your question, did I like the guys? Shit happens, and quite frankly, I cross-check a lot of people from behind, and I was good at it. My specialty was cross-checking people. Your people in front of the net, and you go to clear the net, and you cross-check them as hard as you can from behind. And in the early years, they didn't. You had almost 3 seconds after the whistle stopped, and they didn't call a penalty. And I used to joke with the guys on the team. I said, some of these fast guys are tough to catch. But for some reason, they slow down when the whistle goes, and I got another 3 seconds to cross-check them from behind. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't. And now and then you get a penalty for cross-checking or that after the whistle, but I'm going to say 90-some% of the time you didn't. So yeah, it's just an escalation that really had no end in sight.
And I think the one thing, the takeaway from that also is, the fights with Henderson, you get 2 fights against a really big dude, and you still got to play defense minutes. You're not a 4th-line player here. You're on the ice a lot. So that's going to tire you out. And it takes a lot, I think, to go multiple times, especially.
It's funny you say that, and the one I remember, yeah, a lot of first of all, after one fight, you got a 5-minute penalty, and you get out and they put you right on the ice. Like 5 minutes is enough time to recover, and you feel like saying, I feel like telling the ref something. Maybe he can give me a 10-minute penalty so I can sit in the box a little longer. Because you're tired, right? And I fought Terry O'Reilly twice in one game, and I got first of all, I got all the respect in the world for Terry O'Reilly. He was tough as shit, great player, played a lot. You always got to watch him. So the first time, I don't know, I'm in the corner, puck's in my feet or whatever, and he just body checks me. Now, it's a clean hit, but he knocked me flying, and we're in a fight. And then the next time, almost the same thing happens, and he knocks me flying. So we're in another fight. So we finished in the 2 fights. And like I say, as soon as you finish, they put you right on the ice and I'm so tired. I'm trying to figure out how I get through the shift. And I line up right beside Terry O'Reilly. And we had in Philadelphia a spectator, they called him Sign Man. And he used to hold up these signs. And and we're looking at this, and he holds up a sign, round 3. And all the crowds are cheering and things like that. I'm looking at this round 3. Hey, you know what? I hope you didn't wear yourself out making that sign. You got to make cardboard. You got to get a marker. It's got to be exhausting. But the first 2 fights were pretty much enough for me. And and we look over that, and Terry O'Reilly looks over at me, and he's just smirking. And at the time, I sit there and say, hopefully he thinks it's ridiculous because we're both wiped out. But he was an animal, and maybe he's not. And I said, holy shit. So I wanted to climb the glass and go after Sign Man. And so we never do something stupid like that again. But my guess is Terry had enough also, because they were long, brutal fights.
Yeah. When you fought him, was that the first time that you fought him in the NHL, or did you play against him in junior as well?
No, I didn't play against him. And I hate playing against him. He's tough. In training camp, I think we're playing Boston. I think it's in Springfield, their farm club. And the same thing happened. I'm in the corner, pucks in my feet, and he ran me over in training camp. And now I'm in a fight in training camp. So I fought him just the 3 times. Um, one was for training camp for free. And
How did that one go?
um, I, you know, I guess the big thing is my thought is if you drop your gloves and you try to get in a fight, you're a winner. And both sides are winners. And because the biggest thing is being able to drop your gloves and trying. And I was very serious about that. I had respect for anyone because it's a you're on your own. It's a pretty lonely place out there, and um, um, so I did pretty well against Terry, but um, it was just wild because we were farther apart than if fighting a righty, and we're taking big swings, and I'm missing one, and not by much, and he's missing the one, not by much, and you sit there and say any one of these would he'd put his fist through my face. So you're avoiding death by inches, and then all of a sudden I caught him one. So again, with my fighting strategy is don't get hit in zero. Get hit 0 times. This is way too close for comfort.
For sure.
So that about that, the fighting strategy, like you're not fighting until you're getting that arm tied up and you're locked in. How many shots will you eat, like, while setting up to lock that in before you abandon that strategy, or that it never happened?
I wasn't really fighting until I had that grip.
Okay.
I'm fighting to get the grip, and I'm defensive. So you gotta make sure that he really can't get you a good one into that. But that's when I was the most vulnerable. And sometimes you get a perfect grip, and his punches are going to land 6 inches short of your face, and it's perfect. And sometimes you get an almost perfect, and but I had no intention of fighting until I had some sort of reasonable grip. And like I said, if you could tie up with someone when there's pushing and shoving, and you get your grip, I mean,
And you start it up.
Best way to get it going.
Oh, that was golden. And I'll give you an example. I talked to Clark Gillies in the island, and I got my grip, did the regular thing, had a great fight against him, and I didn't realize how pissed off he was. But I was playing in Chicago, and I did something stupid to someone. I cross-checked Bourne in the back after the whistle, and he dropped the gloves, and he came after me, and I said, "Holy shit, he's pissed." So I did what I always do. I look like I'm going to fight, but I'm not until I get the grip. And every time I try to grab him, he was just whacking my hands away.
Yeah, he was doing
He's just whacking my hands away.
Whacking them down.
Come on, just let me get a grip. But anyway, he just kept it up.
Like a snake.
And so he did that, and I struggled to get his grip, and he was swinging at me. He didn't really hit me or whatever. And then I finally got my grip. And but like I said, my idea of a fair fight is I have the grip. Someone can hit me 0 times, and then what I do is all fun and bonus. And there were no exceptions. The grabbing someone at the neck and just didn't. It wasn't gonna. I didn't like that at all.
And those fights with Gillies, they're legendary fights. Hockey fight fans talk about them still, and quite a bit. And the first one, you got the better of him. It was, um, like you said, you got your grip early and went to work. But I guess he was interviewed. We saw that there's an interview with him, and it's really like kind of like a fun hangout, talking like about old times and stuff. And he talked about how you kind of, after that fight, you were in his head, sort of like he was intimidated to fight you again the next time. And so the fight that you're describing in Chicago was a little bit of a different style because he was. Oh, I found when I've watched him fight, he was always better when he had his hands loose to kind of box up front. But once you got the grip and that fight started to turn a little bit, at the end of that fight, the question that a lot of guys have is, did your last two punches land? Though there's those two short pops. Do you feel that you connected flush with Gillies at the end of that? Because that's what a lot of guys. It's hard to tell from the tape.
Well, I'll say this, because I actually have watched one video. Someone sent it to me, and it was Clark being interviewed. First of all, Clark was a great player,
He's unreal.
and as a great player, you're on the ice a lot. So his presence on the ice is not like you're going out for 15 seconds and no one's, everyone has to worry about that 15 seconds. He's out there a lot, and he was big and he was strong, and he's not, he wasn't an asshole about it like me, but you knew he was there. The first fight went well for me. It was the classic stuff. I got the grip, that whatever, and I thought I hit him some pretty good ones. I don't think I hit him hard enough that he goes down. I thought he lost his balance, but the second fight, he kept knocking my hands around away, and I couldn't get my grip, which not good. And he started swinging, and in his story is he hit me hard, and he didn't, because until I get my grip, I'm just playing defense. I'm going to make sure I don't get a hard shot. And then I finally got my grip, and then the fight changed, and I hit him a good punch in the face. Do I think I hit him hard enough that he's going down? No, I think I just knocked him off balance. His story is he hit me hard, and he didn't. Neither time, I think I hit him good punches when he went down, but not, oh, you knocked him out type of thing. Wasn't close to that. And but I go back to saying, he said, well, I slipped, and I didn't really like the things they're saying, because the Clark Gillies that I know is, I have incredible amount of respect for him, played against him a lot, and he was always a fierce competitor. And if you're going to worry about him physically, he'll score on you. And going out against Trottier, Bossy, and Gillies, sometimes you got a big tough guy that slows down the other guys, but he could play right with them. Could skate, he'd hit, and like I say, he was big and strong and could skate, and so it's not like he's standing there. If you run into him, you're going to get hurt. He's running into you. So he was fabulous. Who's like that was Barry Beck. He's just big, strong guy, and great player. So he's out there all the time. Now, since Beck was a defenseman, we're not running into each other a lot, but there wasn't a second when guys like that, you don't know where they are on the ice, and and you better be careful.
He was a big guy, and when you fought him, like, you must have known his reputation, I guess, before you fought, right? Like, he had a big reputation, I think, coming out of junior. And then at that
no
time,
shit. I don't know. You say that on your com things. No shit. Yeah. You don't. That doesn't get missed.
Yeah, right.
Like this,
right.
John Barry Beck is a huge dude. Was he the captain of the Rangers at the time?
I don't know.
Yeah, but
no one had a more fearsome reputation coming out of junior than him. He was huge. He was big, strong, and a good player. Man. He had it all. And if I played at roughly 6'3", 210, he's 6'3", 230, and that's not to say that that causes a little bit of concern is an understatement. He was just ripped. He was Tim Kerr size.
And so for the Rangers, that's a big rivalry for you guys, for the Flyers. And so, you get tangling with a guy like Barry Beck. But who else are you looking at when you line up against the Rangers? Are you looking at the who's in the roster that you're going to take on beforehand and say, I got this guy? Or
No, I guess this thing is, you're ultimately there's two games going on. There's playing and winning the game, and then there's, my focus was always let's try to win the game.
yep.
And you carry the minutes and you out there and you're trying to win the game. To say that you're not aware of guys like that, Nick Fotiu is a big, strong guy, and so you watch them, and there's different types of toughness. There's good fighters. There's guys that aren't necessarily great fighters, but they're tough as hell, and they run you over and keep running you over, and the high energy, and they just keep running you over again, and so you got to watch out for that. And probably the other type of toughness that I think is amazing is guys that didn't give out any physical abuse, but you couldn't intimidate them. So, for example, the idea to intimidate someone is instead of them coming in front of the net, they want to stay 20 feet back. So when they lose puck, they'll never score because they're 20 feet back. But you got guys like Bobby Clark. You might give him some abuse, but if the puck's he's in front of the net and he'll score. Billy Barber, you couldn't intimidate. Reggie Leach, you couldn't intimidate. Trache, you couldn't intimidate. Bossy. So I consider those guys tough guys because you can't ruin their game. And what you can do is take penalties of minutes against them, but you can't ruin their game.
For sure. And with you mentioned Fotiu earlier. I just want to ask you about him. You guys had a pretty memorable fight there. Could you break that fight down for us, like what you remember?
Yeah, at first, we're doing like we're going to box, and as you guys, I said, I'm not really fighting. I'm pretend boxing. But also, you take a big swing when you're not holding onto the guy, you can lose your balance really easy. So, the hurt comes from more of an arm swing, unlike boxing, where you're using your legs, your hips, your shoulder to rotate, and but you don't have gloves on, the boxing gloves on, so it hurts. And so we're doing the fake boxing. I think he thought he was boxing, but that stuff doesn't really hurt, and I'm just pretending to do that till I get my grip. And but he's a big, strong guy, and he got a good grip on me, and then I got a good grip on him, and so we couldn't really hit each other good, and you just keep. Once you're holding him, then you can swing as hard as you can, and you swing, and he's got a grip on you, it didn't land, and then you yank your arm back as hard as you can, and maybe you can break his grip and try to swing from a different angle or whatever. But again, he was big and he was strong and he was a good fighter, and no one landed any punches, and I'm not a few soft ones type of thing, but nothing. And he's a good fighter.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was in your rookie season, right? So, like, did you ever run into him again later in the career, or was it?
No, I think I only fought him the one time. I think. Who knows?
Right on.
Is there any of these guys that you still would like to fight now?
I'm going to be honest. The answer is hell no.
Yeah.
Not sure if I wanted to fight them back then.
Right. When you were being paid and there was an audience rooting you on. Yeah.
No, you know what? I guess I couldn't stand the idea of being pushed around.
Unknown.
And sorry about that. And I couldn't stand my team being pushed around. And I couldn't stand them hitting my goaltender. And the fact that maybe they hit my goaltender with 1 pound of pain, and I thought it was appropriate to respond with 20 pounds of pain, which pissed them off, and then you escalated and all that stuff. But no, it would have been nice to avoid a lot of those fights, because and people say, well, who are you afraid of? And I'm going to tell you, everyone who could put a fist through my face, and there's a lot of them, I was afraid of. So, and it's not like, oh, I'm not afraid of him. I wasn't going to back down. But
Mhm.
it's not like, oh, I got this fight, I got this fight. And, speaking actually a funny thing. So I started off fighting my first year and things are going well and going well and going well. And I said, who's this guy, before the game? And they say, oh, don't worry about him. You got him. And I said, no, actually, I'm going to worry about this one. And
Yeah,
who's
yeah.
this guy? Oh, don't
That's
worry
usually the
about him.
guy
I'm
to
going to
worry
worry
about.
about him. I'm going to worry about him. Don't tell me about him. And so this goes on, and I don't know how long. And finally, before the game, and I said, Vancouver and Kurt Fraser and Mel Bridgman, who played with Kurt, he said, you got to worry about him. And then all of a sudden, nope, I think don't worry about him. Don't worry about him. I want to hear that more. And I got in a brutal fight with Kurt. And I played with Kurt in Chicago and we're great friends. But he was strong as hell, and he was a great fighter. And it was, you just wondered, you're fighting for your life. And that was, so yeah, I afraid of them all, and I have no problem with saying it, and
Yeah.
just didn't back down. But I didn't think any of these fights um, um, I was going to win for sure, and some guys the size of Fotiu and Beck and Gillies and things like that. Probert, uh, you know, uh, you know.
Yeah,
But again, you drop your gloves. I think everyone won. So, um, uh, and actually, at the last year in my career, I fought Probert, and what I've seen of Probert, he fights a lot like I did, and I said, well, maybe this is the newer version of me that's coming to wipe me out, and so
he's the
shit happens.
T1000.
Yeah, exactly. I really thought if there's someone's going to wipe me out, it's probably him. And we got in a fight, and for whatever reason, I have no idea. He held on and didn't. I don't even know if he threw a punch.
Yeah, it was sort of like a non-event. Didn't you guys drop the gloves twice? I think
No,
it
I
was
would. I don't think so. I think I would have remembered that.
okay.
And
Yeah, yeah. He's
and I don't know. I mean, I threw, and that's why I say he fought with me. I had a good grip on him. He had a good grip on my elbow. I must have thrown 20 punches, but with his grip, they're not landing. And so, I don't know why I didn't throw a punch. And two things. Number one, after throwing 20 punches as hard as you can, um,
Yeah.
getting
You
pretty
might not study
tired.
him.
And then I was worried because the fight wasn't ending. And then I said, shit, if I run out of gas, he's going to pound the hell out of me.
Yeah.
And the other thing is that, since he wasn't fighting, and it's all defense, it's pretty tough to win the fight. It's really tough to win the fight. It would have been different if he was fighting also, right? Because, rather than just playing defense, but you know what? He didn't put his fist through my brain, and I'm thrilled about that one.
Yeah, were
Yeah.
you ever on the ice while he fought like one of your teammates? Like, did you get to see him, really open up the floodgates on anyone while you were on the ice?
I don't know if I was on the ice. I saw him fight Glenn Cochran when I was in
Mm,
Chicago. Glenn was
he
really,
was awesome.
really tough boy, great fighter. And I also, which kind of I didn't allude to, but it reminded me, there was, I wasn't playing that game. I was in the press box, and he got in a fight with Gary Nyland. Again,
Mm,
Gary Nyland is 6'4", 230 pounds, body of Adonis, and Gary went and fought with him and fought and fought and fought, and Probert just held on. And there was so much shit going on the ice that what happened was the fight never ended, and he ran out of gas, and then Probert started fighting. So
The old rope-a-dope.
Probert got him some good show, and but how do you know how long the fight's going to last?
yeah.
How do you know any of this stuff? there's no sense in waiting for the 10th minute of the fight. You don't have many, but
To turn it on.
when if your rope-a-dope works and it is 10 minutes, you're in great shape. So and I got in a fight with Probert, and I was running out of gas, and you just try to summon up the energy to throw one more punch, and the fight's still not over, and you throw one more, and um, I don't know what happened. I don't know why I didn't try to fight.
I think it's interesting too with like these sort of changing of the guard moments where you see these new guys coming into the league. Like when you first came into the league with Philadelphia, you had a fight with Dave the Hammer Schultz. And Schultz, he's the sort of on the, I guess he would have been on the tail end of his career or starting to, right? He had just left, he was in Pittsburgh at the time, right?
Pittsburgh, yeah.
Yeah, and so you guys have a fight. How did that feel being the new kid on the block in Philadelphia going against, um their former, I guess, heavyweight leader? Was it
Well, I think, as the game, um, changes or whatever, Schultz came in as essentially the first pure fighter, and he fought a lot of guys that couldn't fight, and he beat up a lot of guys. But then every team woke up about that, and
Mhm.
if Dave was 190 pounds and he was a very good fighter, all of a sudden, guys are coming in at 230 pounds, and so the game evolves, and
Yeah.
you see the guys. It's just different, and no different than the speed of defensemen. Used to be if you give me 20 times of a skating race, of all the players, you pick the slowest six, and there's the defenseman. And at the end of my career, that wasn't true. And then so guys started getting bigger. Schultz, he had a great career for his skills, and he could come up with that rage and fight and all that sort of stuff. But to a certain extent, that fighting, he wasn't. In my mind, he wasn't the terrifying guy, and I don't know how much time we have left, but
That's
um,
okay. Yeah.
as I was telling Scoop, and he said, "Oh, after he wrote the book, then I was telling him about it. For me, the most terrifying guy, or the guy I had the hardest time with, bar none, is Willie Platt. And I think I fought him 8 times, and all we did was shorten each other's life. And um, but he was tough as shit, and a good player. So um, so he was guys like that you got to run into every shift, every shift.
Yeah.
That was tough.
Was it hard as
Question.
you? Oh yeah, go ahead, John. Sorry.
No, no, go ahead, because this one's sort of in closing, and I want to ask before we get there. But if you got like, because this is sort of an outside the game, off ice sort of
Mhm.
question,
Yeah,
so I don't
sure.
want to cut you short. So
Okay,
go
sure.
ahead.
So, yeah, all good. No, what I was gonna say is that as you get a little bit older in your career and you sort of find yourself being a guy who is almost a measuring stick in the league, how hard is that to, kind of mitigate the risk with, young guns coming up like a Wendel Clark, for example? What's it like having to go against a guy that is very hungry to make an impact?
Um, Yeah, no, that's a fabulous question. I turned pro Flyers as 19, and every game was like the last night of my life. And it's out there, and at the time I realized there's guys that are trying to get one more year in their career, and they were tough guys, and now we're 20 pounds heavier than them, and don't care if we make it till tomorrow. And you say, and your day is going to come. Um, I would say that a lot of the tough guys fighters, a lot of the guys come in for 2 years. They can summon up the rage, they can be tough as shit. But after 2 years, for whatever reason, they lose that ability, the will to suffer, to summon up that rage, and they don't last. Like for example, Stan Jonathan was tough as hell, but and John Winsink, and Um, and they just didn't last. And so my admiration is for guys like Tiger Williams, because he played it tough as hell his entire career. Um, Terry O'Reilly, Paul Holmgren, Glenn Cochran. And how do you keep summoning up that rage? Because, like you say, the younger guys, it's easy, and now you're trying to do it one more time. And I think a lot of my rage was I absolutely couldn't stand being pushed around. I couldn't stand if my team was being pushed around, and I was terrified of someone putting a fist through my face. And over time, um, it's harder to summon up that rage. And the fights are so short, so violent. It's not like boxing. The second you can't summon up that rage, I think you're going to get the hell kicked out of you. And um, and then the other thing is, as you go on, and some days you say, man, you know, I'm hurt. And the one thing I can't do is I can't defend myself. I don't want to get in a fight tonight. And the next thing you're in a fight, and and I remember someone said I fought Wendel Clark more than once, but the only time I remember, I was sick as a dog and I had just no strength. And you're just trying to play a safe game and not kill your own team, and don't have the energy to help your team win, but just don't kill your own team. And I get in a
Don't be
fight
a
with
liability.
don't be a liability. And you
Yeah.
sit there and say, don't get in a fight. And you just had, and it's funny in my mind, there's 3 fights that I was just sick as a dog, and I just no strength, no energy. One was against Wendel Clark. Once there was in Detroit against, I think his name was Patterson, and he
Joe
was
Patterson.
down. Joel Patterson, and he's on his knees, and he's covering up, and he's holding on to me, and I just couldn't break his. I was standing up and trying to get my fist free and start taking swings at a guy that's on his knees, which I thought would be fun. And I remember I just couldn't break his grip. I couldn't break his grip, and I was so embarrassed because Kurt Fraser's on the bench, and I was so embarrassed that Kurt knows I couldn't even break the guy's grip. It was, and I can't remember the other time, but it gets harder because different things are going on, and
Yeah.
throughout your career, it's tough to you don't get to say, well, today I really don't feel good. So sorry, I'm not fighting. I'm not going to defend my team. And it's kind of like you're so hurt you don't think you can play, and the team says, well, we really need you. I go play, and then after the game, they yell at you and say, "Well, if you couldn't play, you should have told us." And you say, "So I
Yeah.
went through all that pain. I went through all that pain and prolonged the injury, so now it's not going to get better, and just to get yelled at." So, um, but that's what you got to do. You got to keep going. You got to keep fighting for your team. And I don't know why I thought of this with all my fights with Willie, and um, he leveled me one day when I go down, and he was getting an elbow pelting, but he leveled me. And Jimmy Watson jumped in, my defense partner, to defend my honor. And Jimmy had no chance of winning him. And Willie pummeled him. And but Jimmy jumped in for my defense, and I always respected that. I thought that was amazing. And then he said, well, here's is going to come up one more fight with Willie, because you just can't let that happen. And I wanted to show
Yeah.
Jimmy I appreciated it. But that was a tough thing that Jimmy did. He had zero chance of winning, and it was only a question of how much he was going to get hurt and cut.
Yeah. Well, that takes a lot of guts to jump in like that for sure.
Yeah, he was a great teammate. He was a great, I broke in the league as my defense partner, and he was great and fabulous.
And John, we go to yours.
Yeah, 2 questions. Of you said like, you stopped playing hockey 30 years ago. You've had a life for 30 years. Suddenly the book comes out and all this stuff resurfaces, and that's great for you. But during that 30 years, and I guess even more now, because like you're a senior citizen now. Are there times where you
Ouch!
feel
Ouch! I didn't know that. What sort of show? What sort of program is this? I had no idea. No, who told? Why does?
Where do you live
So-
again, Ben?
Yeah. No, are you ever out and somebody says something disrespectful to you or something, like some young punk, and you're like, buddy, I want to put my fist through your head.
It's even when I was in pro, you go out and maybe after a game at a bar, and some guy wants to show how tough he is, and all you do end up doing is going to jail and getting a criminal charge. And I just wherever I was, I'd leave, and and I don't know why someone goes to a bar and wants to get in a fight. And, I thought you go to a bar to have a few laughs.
I do. It was 12 Wilson Canadians.
So, but that I used to get that, and then I just walk away, and then you get some people and they think they're being funny, and they say, man, I could have, fought, and you say, you say, my guess is you haven't been in a fight, since you're 7 years old, and you've got to go through the million fists thing. And it's a lot of this. No one just starts off on top. And why are you doing this? Because and I've got to keep talking to you. Why are you telling me how tough you are? You've never been in a fight, but all of a sudden you're a good fighter. And you know what? I didn't take any postdoctorate physics, but I don't say I'm great at working out all those equations either, right? But somehow they get in the saying, and that gets annoying. No one wants to hear that, and you feel like I could knock you out in 5 seconds flat, and there's zero chance of you actually laying a hand on me, and it's delusional, and you just walk away because there's no upside, and they can live and they don't have to take their ego out and annoy the shit out of me. It just doesn't make any sense. So I walk away from that. Always have, always will. And they can do whatever they want. They can go fight a fire hydrant. I don't really care.
Okay,
For sure.
All right. The last question. What was it like dating Behn Wilson's daughters? Was there any
Sounds like
boyfriends you wanted to put your fists through?
Surprisingly, my daughters did not date ever. No, they were smart enough. They didn't bring the boys around the house to put the squeeze on. I think there was they did a lot of vetting, and it brought just the thoroughly vetted ones around the house, and hey, good for them and good for me, because no one wants to that, and then they can find out if the guy's a nice guy or a jerk, and you move on, and that's part of life. But I didn't really want to live that with them at all.
Oh yeah. A lot of drop offs at the front of the house, and then the tires squealing.
Yeah, they didn't even they slow down a little bit, and my kids, I always funny, you see my kids are rolling out the side of a 30-mile-an-hour car. Yeah.
Google me. Go on YouTube.
Yeah.
That's funny. Awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, Ben, thanks so much for being on the show. Like, we really appreciate you joining us and taking the time. And I mean, yeah, we've been wanting to have you on the podcast for a while, so it was awesome to see, that you were out making the rounds. And we want to thank Scoop for setting this up, and Scoop Malinowski. Check out his book, Facing Behn Wilson. Yeah, I read it. It's awesome. Yeah, and it's just kind of more in depth. Just getting some other people's accounts about people who went against you and played with you and were, I guess, around hockey, right? So.
Yeah, and I would say Scoop, and I'll give the plug to. I don't have anything to do with the book, Facing Behn Wilson, but Scoop opened my eyes, and I've been busy living my own life and things like that, and I was really touched, and it brought back a lot of incredible memories of when he interviewed guys, and they're all telling stories or whatever, and he said that didn't happen. Then, well, maybe it did, but he's seeing it one perspective, I'm seeing it from the other,
Yeah.
and your immediate thing is, no, let me tell you what really happened, and of course, what their story is, and my story is, and you can't match them up, but there's
Yeah.
something good out there. So I was as touched from, and because of Scoop. I started reaching out to more of the guys I played with, and laughing about the stuff. Now, a lot of the guys have stayed in the loop, so it's not as new to them. But for me, it's all brand new, and it's just it's a shitload of fun for me. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
well,
awesome.
that's what this podcast was born out of, was just laughing about that stuff. You know what I mean? Obviously, not NHL fights, but just getting our heads beat in.
No, I think the what you guys are doing that's great is some of these stories get lost to time, and
Yeah.
some of the stories in the book I wouldn't have remembered it until you think about it, and it's nice to share the stories. Like you mean, it's nice in the interview Gretzky, and he scored his billionth goal, and he did this, and he scored his next goal, and it's incredible stuff. But this is sort of like behind the scenes stuff of the life that you lead, and the funny things, and and what people remember in the book. Ken Yaremchuk, really nice guy, and my roommate, and he told a funny story about practice, and he shot the puck and hit me by accident, and and they say, oh, I forgot about that, because he's such a great guy. And the story is, he shot the puck as I'm going off the ice in Chicago, and it's behind the net, missed the net, hit me in the ankle, hurt like hell. And I was so mad. I'm going to go up to him, and as I just want to pound him, and then I see him, and then he realized he's on my team, he's my friend. I can't pound him, but I'm still mad. And then what do you do? What do you do? And my head was about to explode. And I grabbed a stick. I grabbed his stick, ripped it out of his hands, and I threw it way into the stands in an empty building, about 20 rows up. And I went off the ice. And then as you go off the ice, and you're calming down just a little bit more, and you say, the idea of going and pounding him or whacking with my stick was really, really a bad thought. And glad I got rid of that one.
Yeah.
Why the hell did I grab a stick and throw it over the glass? Like, what the hell was I thinking on that? And the bottom line is, he made a mistake. He knows I made a mistake. He knows he made a mistake. I know I made a mistake. He knows. So
Yeah.
what do you do? So I walked off, and then you say, I can't believe I did that. So he made an accident. He had an honest mistake, hurt like hell, and I was a jerk, but I was a semi jerk, because I could have been a bigger jerk, and that's my
Oh
get out
yeah.
of jail. I could have been worse, Kenny. So
It could have been worse.
but
Yeah.
Oh,
those are
yeah.
great stories. I'm glad Scoop went and interviewed these guys, and I'm gonna over time, I'm gonna call them all up. So it's been great for me.
John,
Oh, cool.
you gotta read the book too, because there is one story in there. I don't know what your thoughts were on this, Ben, but there's like a Flyers charity event, and you got into it with a guy, and the guy was I guess he was pretty scared that you're gonna beat his ass, and, he was like, Ben, you're my favorite player. He was just like a that's in the book. I don't know if you
Oh, I
read that.
don't. No, I don't remember that. And
Said
and
some guy, yeah, just some guy was hooking you or something, and you guys almost got into it at the game, and he's like, "Stop! I'm your favorite. You're my
Oh, at
Oh
favorite
a
player."
charity
yeah.
game. Oh yeah, yeah.
Well, so it's a charity game, and then guys want to do a good job, and he's hooking me and hucking me, and and then rips the skin off by your elbows, and then he's, ripping at your ribs, and it pisses the shit out of you. Just, and you sit there and say, maybe I should skate a little harder and pull away from him. And I didn't want to put that much energy. It's just a charity game. So I stood there, and you get pissed off, and so I remember trying to exercise. So Ed Hospodar in Philadelphia, he said, well, I'm playing this league. Do you want to come out and play? And so I said, yeah, I'll go out and play and get in some exercise and whatever. And the next thing is I'm playing, and this guy thought he'd be tough and kind of go around him pretty easily. He stuck his knee out and whacked and it caught my knee and hurted my knee a little bit. And my first instinct was, I'm going to whack this guy. And, and he's yelling, I go off the ice, and I just want to whack him. I'm pissed. And he skates by, and he's got his gloves dangling. I'm not afraid to fight you. And
Oh,
you sit
no.
there and say, oh, no. And you're pissed because your knee's a little sore. I just came out here to have a little fun with Ed. And Ed yells at him, said, he's not going to fight you. He's going to cross-check you in the head. And I said, yeah, I'm not ruining my knuckles on him and crossing. And then after that's the last time I played pickup hockey, because I don't have to go to jail for cross-checking someone in the head. Because he's trying to show me that he's tough. But he had no idea. He had no idea, oh, let's drop our gloves, let's have a fair fight, and I'll cross-check him in the back of the head, and he'll be on the ice. He'll go to the hospital. I wouldn't, and then we'll, and he said there, oh, got to stop all this. So I wasn't, didn't go at any pickup games.
Oh yeah. That's it.
Then,
you don't anybody making their bones trying to fight you.
Yeah, and then I'm playing pickup basketball, and I'm a good Canadian basketball player, which means you get like half points for hitting the rim, and you're playing pickup games, and all of a sudden some guy's got the ball and he puts his shoulder into you and he's going to drive through you. I hate getting pushed around, and I remember this earlier. So I'm living with my brother. I'm probably my third or fourth year pro in the summer. We're playing pickup basketball with the neighbors, and the guy puts his shoulder into me, and my brother sees right away. He says, Ben, he doesn't know what he's doing. Don't do it. I said, John, he puts his shoulder into me. I can put my shoulder into you. He says, don't do it. Don't do it. And I guess I was like 23, let's say. And it is the first time in my life that I realized that sports wasn't a life and death experience. And because I would have ran him over. I would have ran right through him. He'd be on the ground. He'd be hurt. And I said, Ben, don't do it. And actually caught on. So I thought I was a big boy at that moment. And I was really proud of myself. And then I just sort of like took a little break and came back.
Maybe you're more of a pool player.
Yeah, that. So at the time, my wife says, "Well, you can't play any of these sports, and go play tennis or something like that. Go do something where you can't get near anyone because everything pisses you off." Yeah, well, it pisses me off because it's their fault. That's why it's not my, And he's there.
Yeah.
Yep. Let's go play tennis or billiards. That's the sort of stuff. And maybe I can play a Nintendo game or something like that. So,
a golfer.
Yeah, golf, and so it took I'm still working on it, just so you know. And, another 50 years, I'll act like a normal person, and so anyway, and then so anyway, that's good. Anyway, guys,
awesome.
What a great interview!
Thanks so much, man. Really appreciate it, man.
Well, hopefully, you guys will be able to edit the 12 hours we've been speaking and come up with like 3 or 4 minutes of something that's worth the publishing.
Oh, I think we got lots of good stuff, Ben. Thanks so much for doing the show. It's really great to meet you on here, and we'd love to have you on again down the road.
Hey, you guys made it a lot of fun for me. I thank you. I've avoided interviews for 30 or 40 years, and all of a sudden, I'm doing one and having fun. So I thank you.
Awesome.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay, guys.
Thank you so much, man.
I'll see you.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.